Tonight, investigators finally confirming what Muskoka residents have believed for decades. 4 missing seniors were murdered.
She was a human being, a person, a friend, a nice lady.
Our goal is simply to find out what happened to these 4 souls.
20 years later, police are appealing to residents to help them crack the case. Plus,
100 years or so.
Keep going.
Really? 200?
Keep going.
A couple 100 million? I don't know.
no, wrong, it's even older. So what is this chunk of granite doing in the annex? We'll explain. And in the mood for some live music? You're in luck this weekend. The Beaches International Jazz Festival is back. Good evening, I'm Mike Wise. A big development in a story that CBC News has been following for years. The case of 4 seniors from cottage country who all vanished during a 1-year period in the late 90s. They were officially listed as missing, but tonight police are admitting publicly for the first time they believe the 4 were murdered. Lorena Redekop has more on the new information released by investigators.
4 seniors not seen for 20 years, all with mental health or addictions issues, now considered homicide victims.
At the time of the disappearances, all 4 had one thing in common: where they lived.
3 men who disappeared had all been living at a seniors' home, Fern Glen Manor, in a remote area in Huntsville. It was owned by 4 siblings, members of the Land family. Another victim, Joan Lawrence, lived on a farm owned by them. She paid $600 a month to rent a garden shed with her dozens of cats.
We know now that Joan was moved 600 meters away to a nearby abandoned van where she lived among other derelict vehicles for another 2 months before she met her end on that property.
No remains have been found. Detective Inspector Rob Matthews interviewed her at that shed all those years ago. She had a fraud complaint.
Joan was inside, standing in her bare feet. She wore several layers of clothing. There were too many cats to count.
But 2 days later, he couldn't find her. Police documents obtained by the Fifth Estate showed that at least one detective at the time believed she was killed to keep her from reporting frauds, thefts, and mistreatment from her landlords.
The former owners of these properties have never cooperated with police.
But police won't name the Lands as suspects, but do say this.
It would be disingenuous to say that the Lands are not of interest to us.
The OPP say 12 other people died at the Lands retirement homes. All had checks in their names cashed long after their deaths. As police released these new details, family members of one of the victims were here in the room, also learning more after all these years. They did not wish to speak to the media. Police hope to give them more answers.
When major cases first happen, everybody is normally quite tight-lipped, but sometimes time is our best friend.
A friend of Joan Lawrence's wants justice.
I was hoping that they would say that, maybe someone came and confessed, or they had somebody in custody. Let's put these seniors to rest and get this case solved.
Lorena Redekop, CBC News, Vaughan.
Now, this is the first time in over 10 years the OPP has spoken publicly about this case, and it comes just weeks after the release of the latest season of the CBC podcast Uncover that looks at the disappearances. You can listen to all 6 episodes of the Cat Lady case now on your favorite podcast app or online at cbc.ca/listen. Well, condolences and tributes continue to pour in tonight for David Kaplan. The former Ontario Health Minister died yesterday at just 54 years old. Tonight, we're learning Toronto police have launched a sudden death investigation regarding an incident and a fire at Kaplan's home last night. The emergency call came in around 9:30 at his home in the DVP in Lawrence Avenue East area. Paramedics say they rushed the man to a nearby hospital in life-threatening condition. Duty officer Sean Staff said the man sustained severe injuries but did not elaborate on the nature of those injuries, but police confirmed to us there was a fire at the residence. Kaplan was first elected back in 1997. He served as the Liberal Health Minister from 2007 to 2009. He served as an MPP for the riding of Don Valley East until 2011. He also ran unsuccessfully in last year's municipal election. He's been remembered as a hard-working politician who is dedicated to his community. He was the Minister of Health during the e-health scandal, when millions of dollars went to consultants with government ties. Well, if you are a fan of eating honey, you'll want to pay attention to this next story. It is becoming one of the world's most faked foods. It's being diluted with cheap syrups, but still being labeled as pure honey. In fact, 1/5 of all honey imports failed federal inspections. Well, that food fraud is undercutting prices, and local beekeepers say they are feeling the sting. Ali Chasson has that story.
Oh, wow, look at that. I can just taste it like this.
Oui.
Oh my God. There's no faking that.
The only varying ingredient in pure honey should be the type of flower nectar the bee chooses.
And they just suck out the sweet stuff, and that's what we extract as honey.
The real stuff, not the fake honey recently busted by the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. These are the people whose job it is to make sure Canadians aren't being deceived in the grocery aisle.
So the database has thousands of measures of authentic honey, and then what we do is we compare the sample to that profile for authentic, and that can tell us whether there's added sugars. Cane and corn versus honey, right? It's a small little difference we're looking at.
Since June 2018, the CFIA has been cracking down on imported honey that's being diluted with cheap sugar. The agency collected 240 samples across Canada from honey importers, distributors, processing facilities, and retailers.
22% were found to have some foreign sugars in the honey. So this could be in the form of sugar syrup, such as corn syrup or rice syrup.
More than 1/5 of imported honey from places like Greece, India, Pakistan, Vietnam, and China failed tests at the CFIA lab in Ottawa. Local producers have been feeling the sting of the food fraud for a long time.
So we're trying to support the family, and selling honey wholesale in the barrel on the world market was really difficult. And so we just said, this is not sustainable.
Unlike his grandfather, third-generation beekeeper Chris Heemstra can't survive on honey alone.
Someone can take sugar for 20 cents a pound and say it's honey against someone that needs $2 a pound to make a living.
Heemstra says buying local is the only way these days to be sure you get what you pay for.
Try to find somebody that's got their name on a bottle, the beekeeper, look at them, see if they got dirt on their hands and they've got swollen cheeks or something, bee stings.
Ali Chasson, CBC News, Aylmer, Ontario.
Well, it is one of the highlights of Toronto's summer calendar, the Beaches International Jazz Festival. It kicked off tonight. Our Natalie Nanowski is live tonight on Queen Street, where the Street Fest just wrapping up there, Natalie.
It just wrapped up, Mike. You just missed it. The Accolades, a funk band, was just performing. It had me and everyone else here dancing. And let me tell you, today, the streets were packed with vendors and music goers. I spoke with one band. They're a local Toronto band. They're called the Dirty B-Sides. They play some really funky hip-hop. And they told me that they have been at this festival for 3 years in a row. And the reason for that is because this festival allows them to do something that they've always dreamed of, and that's be really loud.
I like being in the street. That's like the best part. The likelihood of anyone ever letting us set up a whole PA system and making noise in the street is pretty much slim to none in the city, and so the fact that Beaches puts in the work to let us do this is super fun.
So I actually spoke with the organizer because this festival has been around for about 30 years. He started it all. He owned a bar along the beaches, and he decided that, you know, music was a good way to get people together. So he put it on 31 years ago. It originally had about 1,000 people, but it has since grown exponentially to attract people from all over the world, including international bands. But he says it's really important for him to keep a lot of that talent local.
Our programming is 98% Canadian, but we also have a lot of international acts from Colombia. This year we featured bands from Turkey, from Switzerland, from New Brunswick, from Vancouver, from Quebec, from Ottawa, and a lot of Torontonians, because Torontonians are rich of music, and it's a great way to showcase their product.
So the band that you just missed, the Alkalades, they're right over here. Those guys right over there, they are fantastic. They're performing tonight. Of course, there's going to be tons of other bands. There's still 2 more days where the street is closed. You can come catch performances on every single street corner. And then on Sunday, all the bands are going to be heading to Woodbine Park and performing there. And you know the best part about all this, Mike? It's free.
Absolutely free and such a great time in the summer. Thanks a lot, Natalie.
Thank you.
Nick Cerkovich is here with his first look at the forecast. Another day, another great forecast.
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. Temperatures and in particular humidity rising, although with that we saw a few afternoon thunderstorms today, and we'll see that heading through the next couple of days. But otherwise, lots of sunshine in the forecast. We hit 28 degrees today. We'll get a hair over that as we move through tomorrow as well. But again, the risk for some afternoon thunder showers. The morning will start out sunny. Most of the day will be sunny, but through the mid-afternoon, I think we'll pop up a few scattered thunderstorms in the area, and then it clears out for the evening. And then as we head through Saturday, same story once again. For tonight, 17 degrees, light winds tomorrow, 29 degrees. Feels like 34 with the humidex, and that risk of a few showers. We'll have your full forecast in just a bit.
Okay, thanks, Nick. Concerns being raised tonight about comments made last weekend in Mississauga by Egypt's immigration minister. During a speech, Minister Nabila Makram suggested people who criticize her country should be punished. Her comments all caught on video. Angelina King takes us through what she said.
Well, essentially, Nabila Makram says that anyone who speaks out against her country should have their throats cut. She was speaking to members of the Egyptian community in Mississauga. You can see it in this video. At first, she was sharing a message of unity among Egyptians. Then she says they can't bear any negativity from the international community. It's clear in the video she makes a slashing motion across her throat. You can also hear the crowd laugh and applaud. So some people online are saying that this is an Egyptian metaphor meant as a joke. But the man who posted the video disagrees. Mohammed Nas, an Egyptian-born journalist, was sent the video from someone at the event. He says the comments shocked him, but also says that they reflect the current political climate in Egypt. He spoke with us through a translator.
الجو السياسي في مصر ربما انعكس تماما.
There is no space for dissidents or for a different opinion. That is not what the military or what the current government is and represents.
Yes.
The Egyptian-Canadian Coalition for Democracy posted Nas's video online. One board member I spoke with says he immediately thought of Jamal Khashoggi, the dissident Saudi journalist who was killed in the consulate in Istanbul. He says that these comments should not be taken lightly.
It might be a veiled threat put as a joke. It might be a reflection of the mindset of the government that came out as a joke, but it doesn't come out of nowhere.
He also says that the political climate in Egypt is the worst it's ever been. Egypt's President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi has been accused of human rights violations and repressing dissidents since he took power 6 years ago. In a voice message to an Egyptian broadcaster, Makram downplayed her comments and said Egypt just doesn't threaten people. Both men I spoke with today want the Canadian government to take a stand. We reached out to Global Affairs for comment. They have yet to respond. The Egyptian consulate in Canada, which arranged...
It's crazy. It almost looked like one of those things from outer space, though.
How old do you think it is?
I said at least 1,000 years old.
Just how old is this rock that turned up on Welcome back. An Amber Alert was called off just 1 hour after it was sent out last night after a missing 2-year-old girl was found safe. But yet again, Brantford police say they were flooded with complaints. Officers were called crazy, accused of not doing their job and of harassing citizens. Seems a lot of the complainers didn't like being woken up. One person called police 11 times. The alert was issued around 3 a.m. after a call from the toddler's mother. Police say a number of people rang her doorbell. When the mother answered, police say the father kicked in the back door and took the child. Police caught up with the father around 4 a.m. in Hamilton. He surrendered to officers and the child was turned over to other family members. 4 people were arrested. The father has been charged with abduction. There's a piece of granite making news in the annex tonight, and it has nothing to do with someone's new kitchen countertop. Crews dug up the rock while they were building a parquet. And it turns out this one has been around for quite a while. Greg Ross looks at how it ended up there.
It had people stopping to check it out all day. Kevin Parker didn't know what to make of it.
It looks kind of
This Is is it a meteor?
Yeah, it looks shiny-ish.
Well, it didn't come from space. In fact, construction crews pulled this granite boulder out of the ground last week, a 2,000-kilogram chunk of the Canadian Shield, and it's surprisingly old.
100 years or so.
Keep going.
Really? 200?
Keep going.
500?
Keep going.
I have no idea.
How old do you think it
I
is?
said at least 1,000 years old.
Okay. It's higher. Keep going.
2000 BC.
Keep going.
A couple 100 million? I don't know.
It's actually about 1.1 billion years old, give or take a few 100 million years. And believe it or not, rocks like this are actually pretty common in Toronto, according to U of T professor of geography and earth sciences, Joe Deloge.
Having a shield rock in the Greater Toronto area is not unusual. If you walk many of the creeks and ravines that cut through the glacial deposits, you'll see plenty of granites and various kinds of shield rock embedded.
Deloge says rocks like this traveled here in glaciers, but how this rock wound up on Bloor Street West is still a bit of a mystery.
In a flat area like Bloor Street, where this boulder was uncovered, most of the sediments there, native sediments there, are former lake bottom deposits from glacial Lake Iroquois, which occupied that environment about 14 to 11,000 years ago.
Deloge says it was likely frozen in an iceberg, and when it melted, the boulder settled on the bottom of the lake. A perfect story for locals like Brian Burchell, who is also the chair of the Bloor Annex BIA.
It gives us a link to the past and to incorporate that into our future plans to make a cottage-like environment in our parquets is very apropos.
So this rock was actually pulled out of the ground right here, and it's going to get a new home not too far from here. In fact, they're building a brand new parquet just a couple of blocks west on Bloor Street, and that's where they're hoping to move that permanently. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, former Blue Jay Troy Tulowitzki is calling it a career. We'll tell you why the All-Star shortstop is leaving baseball and just how long it's been since he played. We'll have that when we come back.
The weather update is brought to you by Train Extreme Conditions Testing. It's hard to stop a train, really hard. Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
We might have heard today about Gucci, the husky pup. Toronto police put out a press release asking the public for help locating him after they say he was stolen outside a grocery store. Well, good news tonight, he's been found, but it turns out he may not have been stolen in the first place. In another release tonight, police thanked the public for their assistance, but said investigators checked in with the owner, who advised that Gucci had since been returned and that it was all a misunderstanding. No reason given as to what that means. Police say there are no outstanding suspects. Well, the Toronto Argonauts in Edmonton tonight still looking for their first win of the season. They are the only CFL team without a win this season. They get a break right here in the first. Alden Darby Jr. capitalizes on a fumble. He recovers it right there on the 1 yard line. But later in the quarter, Edmonton's back in the same place. Different outcome. Kenny Stafford takes ball in for the touchdown right now in the third quarter. The score is 13-0 for Edmonton. Toronto's Penny Alexiak helped push Canada onto the podium in the women's 4x200 meter freestyle relay today at the Aquatic World Championships in South Korea. Alexiak anchored the squad and powered past the Chinese swimmer in the lane over in the final stretch to help Canada earn a bronze, placing though well behind Australia and the United States. And former Toronto Blue Jay shortstop Troy Tulowitzki is officially retiring from baseball. He's missed most of the past 2 seasons due to leg injuries and hasn't played for his current team, the New York Yankees, in more than 3 months. He came to Toronto in a trade in the middle of 2015 and went on to hit 24 homers the next year. It also was his last full season in the majors. Nick is back with this extended forecast. We've had a great week of summer-like weather. I'm just hoping that extends into the weekend.
Well, you know, I'm going to leave it to the board and the words that are on here. As I mentioned off the top, scattered thunderstorms, yes, but for the most part, we've got a whole lot of sunshine heading right into the weekend, and both the temperature and the humidity are rising out through Sunday. Now, today we hit about 28 degrees. The average high, 27 degrees, just to put it in perspective. The record, 35. And look at this, the average overnight low, 15 degrees. Now, keep that in mind when I get to the 5-day forecast, and you'll see how temperatures are rising there. Overnight tonight, clear skies leading us into tomorrow morning. By tomorrow afternoon, the risk for a few spotty showers popping up across the GTA. Those will dissipate again, similar to what we had today. And then into Saturday. Saturday morning looks sunny through the afternoon. There is a chance we're going to see some thunder showers scattered once more. We've got a little bit of instability in the atmosphere, but most of it will really be kind of up north, like north of Collingwood, Owen Sound area there. That's really where we're expecting to see it for Saturday. Sunday, this slides down across the GTA. Southwestern Ontario looks like this for tonight. Temperature 17, 18 degrees by tomorrow. Highs up into the 30s, 31 in Windsor. About a 30% chance of seeing a few afternoon thunder showers for southwestern Ontario. Same story for the Golden Horseshoe tonight. Temperatures at 17 degrees. And then as we move through tomorrow afternoon, we're looking at highs of about 29, humidex values into the mid-30s, and a 30% chance of showers. Now, why 30%? Because we will see thunderstorms popping up in the area. It's just that they'll be scattered, so not everybody's going to see them, and that's where that percentage comes from. Into the 5-day forecast, couple things to point out here. The humidity, number one, look at the humidex values rising into Sunday up to 37. And number two is, remember that overnight low I mentioned? The average is 15. By Sunday, the overnight temperature, 22 degrees. Lots of warm temperatures in the forecast, and don't let this deter you, by the way. Sunday and Monday, I do have the thunderstorms in there, but these are not all-day events.
Okay, thanks a lot, Nick.
Okay. This has been a secret for a long time, but I'm finally able to tell you, and I'm so nervous and so excited. I wanted to
So what is Lily Singh so excited to tell us? We'll fill you in after the break.
It's 2019. I don't want to do a gender reveal. I thought,
Toronto's own Lily Singh, or Superwoman as you may know her, has revealed the premiere date for her new late-night talk show.
September 16th? September 16th, 2019. September 16th, a little late when Lily Singh launches.
In case you missed it, she said September 16th. She posted this 4-minute-long video to YouTube today. Being Canadian actress / comedian / YouTube star / writer replaces Carson Daly's slot in late night, making her the first woman of color to host a daily late night talk show on a major broadcast network. Here's on NBC in the United States. And still with late night television, tomorrow on Q, Roots frontman Tariq Trotter steps in. He's on every night with Jimmy Fallon on The Tonight Show, but he's going to be talking with Tom Power about his turn to stand-up comedy at Montreal's Just for Laughs Festival. You can hear that tomorrow at 10 a.m. on CBC Radio 1. I'll see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Good night.